Tonight, the mayor of New Orleans facing fierce backlash after a local government investigation found she used city funds to upgrade her international flights to the tune of nearly $30,000. One first-class trip to France last July cost over $17,000 alone. At the time, the mayor saying this:
expenses incurred doing business on behalf of the city will not be reimbursed to the city.
She went on to explain that the upgraded travel expenses were for her health and safety relating to the COVID-19 pandemic.
My health and well-being is a priority, and especially it's all doing city business, and I have to be at my best doing it.
In a statement to several other news stations, Cantrell said, quote, "Anyone who wants to question how I protect myself just doesn't understand the world black women walk in." Now a petition calling for her recall is growing.
This recall is because of the job performance of the mayor.
Over 10,000 people have signed the petition, many claiming her travel controversies and a rise in crime as the main reasons behind the recall push. New Orleans crime has skyrocketed this year, with homicides up 142% since 2019, and their own Metropolitan Crime Commission naming the city the murder capital of the U.S. But Mayor Cantrell telling our affiliate last month she sees the recall as a distraction.
Like I've done with every crisis, with every disaster that I've had to face and challenge that I've had to face, I do it with integrity, I do it with dignity, and I do it with hard work.
A few years later.
Breaking news, Justin. Our team is in place, and here's what we're following at this hour in downtown New Orleans. A federal indictment is being read in federal court against New Orleans Mayor Cantrell and her former bodyguard, NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappy.
Boy. So we got to talk about woke Democrat Mayor LaToya Cantrell, who is now facing federal corruption charges due to allegations stemming from a long-running federal investigation launched in 2022 in which investigators allegedly uncovered a bribery scheme involving Cantrell and local businessman Randy Farrell, who had previously faced charges in 2024. So apparently, according to the indictment, Farrell provided Cantrell with Saints games tickets, lunch at a high-end restaurant, and a cell phone. These were allegedly given in exchange for Cantrell, the mayor, arranging the dismissal of a city official who was investigating Farrell's company. Now, the interesting part about this story is that it's not just the mayor that's involved. Apparently, her former bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy, who was also previously indicted for wire fraud and lying to the FBI, is also named in connection with the scheme as well, too, because apparently she's sleeping with the guy, right? So you have the mayor of New Orleans sleeping with her bodyguard, and they're all caught in this big conspiracy and corruption scheme, and that's what we got to talk about here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and roll this clip so people can get just a little bit of a background about what's going on, and then we're going to get into this indictment. Roll the clip.
Breaking news, Justin. Our team is in place, and here's what we're following at this hour in downtown New Orleans. A federal indictment is being read in federal court against New Orleans Mayor Cantrell and her former bodyguard, NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappy. So we're working to get more details. Meg Gatto, John Snell, our legal analyst Joe Responti joining us. So what does this mean when you get an indictment? It basically means a grand jury has seen evidence presented by federal prosecutors, and based on what they saw, they believe a crime has been committed. And this is not the first time we've seen these two high-profile names, guys.
And I think the interesting thing here is that it's mentioning Joe Responti, both the mayor and Jeffrey Vappy, which I don't want to get ahead of what we know, but that raises the possibility of perhaps a superseding indictment, since he had already been indicted.
Right. If Jeffrey Vappy is getting new counts against him, it is most probably what's known as a superseding indictment, which will follow his original indictment to that section of court. And if she is a co-defendant with him, it's all going in the same car.
So for background, and not to make this too confusing, this is the case in which he had been working or claiming time as the mayor's bodyguard when in fact federal prosecutors were alleging that he had a personal relationship with the mayor. It was noteworthy at the time that the mayor had not been indicted in that case. This could imply that now she has been added in somehow and into that alleged conspiracy.
Right. We'll see which format, if any, they use, whether or not she's going to be named. if she is named, if there are other defendants possibly named with her. And
hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive in, I wanted to mention something that might be helpful to some of you if you've ever been in a situation where you've been injured, or whether in an accident or dealing with a legal issue, you know how overwhelming it can be to figure out where to turn. That's precisely why I wanted to talk about our valued sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. They understand that in this country, every individual deserves a fair shot, and that means having formidable representation when you need it the most. Morgan & Morgan stands up for everyday Americans fighting for the justice you deserve if you end up working with them. They're America's largest injury law firm, and they've recovered over $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. That's not just a number. That's a testament to their unwavering dedication to getting results for those who've been wrong. Now, what truly resonates with me about Morgan & Morgan is their core philosophy. They don't get paid unless they win your case. It's about accountability and results, and ensuring that the little guy has the same access to powerful legal representation as anyone else without upfront costs. They believe in fighting for individual rights and ensuring that hardworking Americans aren't left behind. So if you or a loved one has been injured or needs a strong advocate to navigate a difficult legal battle, don't face it alone. Because when you hire Morgan & Morgan, it's like hiring a legal army that has your back. You can start your claim now by clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen from your phone's camera. Standing up for what's right for your family and for your future is always the conservative choice. A big thank you to Morgan & Morgan for their sponsorship and for supporting content that champions American values. Now, let's dive back into it.
A lot of questions raised just by these charges on their face.
And consider the fact that we have the Randy Farrell indictment,
yes,
in which the mayor could easily have been brought in to testify,
yes,
as well as the VAPI indictment, in which she's clearly involved. We just don't know which of those cases she was brought to a grand jury to lead to 2 counts of false declaration before a grand jury.
Right. One of the things that, VAPI was charged with initially was lying to investigators, basically making false statements to federal investigators. And it was about whether or not the two of them were having an affair. The allegations are spelled out, in court records, including text messages that were exchanged between the two of them that were the basis of establishing that foundation that they were, in fact, having an extramarital affair because of things that had been surfacing, including this photo that's on your screen right now of the two of them having a very lengthy wine-filled dinner at the Tableau restaurant in the French Quarter. So that indictment against Jeffrey Vappy spelled out how federal prosecutors were establishing, at least to get probable cause to charge Vappy. They were trying to establish that there was that relationship between the mayor and Jeffrey Vappy. So that's all spelled out in court documents. And now with these new charges that we just found out about in federal court records, the mayor, LaToya Cantrell, charged with 2 counts of false declaration before the grand jury. That is significant, Mike.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, so hopefully you get the gist of kind of what's going on here, okay? This woman, the mayor, was involved in an affair with her bodyguard, right? Her boo thing that she was paying with taxpayer money, and she was basically using that taxpayer money in order to fund, again, her affair, okay, and the activities that she was doing with this guy. And throughout the investigation, okay, this guy was already under investigation. Throughout the investigation, she basically lied about the nature of the relationship that she was having with this dude. And again, that is kind of where a lot of these charges are stemming from. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Really interesting how these charges are listed. We have the conspiracy, and presumably that's going to be Vappy and Cantrell in the conspiracy.
Yes.
All of the other wire fraud counts are aiding and abetting.
All right, I just got this, Mike. We just got a very lengthy, information from the grand jury. The felony indictment. This is a felony indictment against Jeffrey Vappy and LaToya Cantrell. In this, it kind of details exactly what happened. And so when federal prosecutors make a case like this, they are very specific in these court records. They want the public to know what exactly it is, usually, that is the foundation for why they have charged someone, especially in a case of this magnitude. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, we certainly can see that that's a lengthy indictment. So
I can't even tell you how many pages. Let's see, 45 pages.
That is extremely long and presumably detailed. We can go through, and we will, in fact, report on the specifics of these individual charges of 11 against the mayor, added to what we previously saw in the original indictment against Vappy.
This is interesting, Mike. This June 28th, 2024, this alleges that the defendant, LaToya Cantrell, while under oath testifying, and I'm quoting here from this indictment, testifying in a proceeding before a federal grand jury of the United States of the Eastern District of Louisiana, knowingly did make the following false material declarations. Cantrell produced all records responsive to the July 18th subpoena maintained on her personal devices. B, Cantrell was unaware of additional records in her possession, custody, or control that had been withheld from production in response to that subpoena. To Cantrell's knowledge, no responsive documents had been withheld from production. So I think at issue here is whether or not the mayor withheld some of her communications from federal prosecutors and then testified to that fact before a federal grand jury in 2024, so last year. This is very interesting information. Again, we're just really starting to work our way through this as we're sitting up here.
I think that's the first that we've heard that the mayor herself was called in to appear before the grand jury.
Yes, and all of this, of course, related to a man who is her former bodyguard with the New Orleans Police Department, Jeffrey Vappy. I mean, the allegations began with the two of them having an extramarital affair, the allegations, that's among them. And so, you know, this information that we're just getting as we're live here on WWL TV and WWL Plus is new to us. So we're just kind of trying to work our way through it as we sit up here. So, you know, I think most of us are going to be surprised by the fact that we did not know that the mayor was actually called before the grand jury in July of last year. I think we have been continuing to hear musings about this investigation.
Let me just list, as we go through the details of this very voluminous, it looks like a full 45 pages. We have headings that include Cantrell's travel.
Wow.
Vappy's official travel with Cantrell, the Pontalba apartment, and now the federal grand jury investigation for which there are 2 counts of the mayor allegedly lying to the federal grand jury.
And lying to them about withholding information from the federal grand jury about her communications. So that is really interesting. They are accusing her of lying to them and saying that she produced all the documentation that they had asked for in a subpoena, but she in fact didn't. That's the allegation.
And this spells out the conspiracy. It's under the heading of the manner and means of the conspiracy. It says that between not later than October 2021, Vappy and Cantrell carried on a personal and intimate relationship, which Vappy and Cantrell attempted to disguise by making Vappy's interactions with Cantrell appear to relate to Vappy's duties and responsibilities as a member of her protection team. It goes on to say
that's the cover-up of the alleged affair.
It goes on to say that they exchanged over 15,000 personal messages, pictures, and voice messages via WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. It's an encrypted messaging service that is actually owned by Meta, I believe, at this point. But WhatsApp is commonly used by people because it is encrypted. It's very difficult to get those records.
But
wow, this reminds me of Fannie Pack and Nathan Wade, right? I mean, because surely they were involved in a relationship. We know that for a fact. I mean, they still probably are. That's what it looks like. But, you know, Fannie Willis claimed they were not in a relationship as they were investigating President Trump with taxpayer dollars. Yeah, we all know what was going on with that. But again, this is eerily similar to something that we've seen when it comes to Fannie Willis.
Clearly signals that the FBI has painstakingly, we know, gone through Vappy's phone, We've seen that alluded to in previous documents. Now we have them, I guess, getting into encrypted messages, 15,000 personal messages, pictures, and voice messages via WhatsApp. That's substantial. It's a substantial amount of legwork by the FBI. They clearly did not leave any stone unturned on this relationship that they're now alleging is a conspiracy in these 11 counts against the mayor.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, this is very interesting. Of course, again, if you're just joining us, Mayor LaToya Cantrell has been indicted by a federal grand jury on 11 counts. It is related to the Jeffrey Vappy investigation. Her former NOPD bodyguard was indicted previously for essentially wire fraud, for putting down hours and getting city money for time that he didn't actually work.
All right,
In
so
addition,
this
he was also...
This is significant because this now is under the conspiracy indictment charge that Vappy and Cantrell used their public positions to coordinate work trips outside of the state of Louisiana, which were paid for by the city of New Orleans, for the purposes of manufacturing Vappy and Cantrell to engage in personal and intimate activities at taxpayer expense.
Wow.
That's the language in the indictment. So this indictment goes all the way back to the travel controversy, the public money, the taxpayer money that was spent on both the mayor and Vappy traveling. And it looks like, according to the allegations, made to look like some kind of business purposes, actually to engage exclusively in personal and intimate relationships.
You know, this
so basically what they were doing is that they were using taxpayer dollars to fly around the world and to, get it on, right? She was getting her cheeks clapped on taxpayer dollars, making up reasons to go on trips, right? Business trips, right? In which, again, she has come under a lot of criticism for using taxpayer dollars to fund luxurious trips, right? Like first class tickets, upgrades, things like that. So she's basically traveling on taxpayer dime, get her cheeks clapped by her bodyguard, right? And then when you question her about this and you try to hold her accountable, you're only coming after me because I'm a black woman, right? As a black woman, we get criticized so much. It's the same playbook over and over and over again. Same exact thing with Fannie Willis. All of these soul sisters are the same. They are the same.
Goes on and on and on in here in this 45-page indictment that the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to be holding a press conference on at 2:45 this afternoon. The U.S. Attorney and reportedly the FBI will be involved in that news conference to answer questions about this indictment. But, there have been so many questions swirling about the mayor's travel for so long. It has just become almost a public joke at this point. And in here in this indictment, it talks about, I remember hearing about this, where the mayor canceled a trip to go to the U.S. Conference of Mayors trip in Miami in 2022. Instead, this indictment reads, at approximately the same time that she canceled the Miami trip, Cantrell booked a personal trip in which she traveled alone from New Orleans to Martha's Vineyard, a Massachusetts island, via commercial airplane, commercial bus, and public ferry to spend time with Vappy while he attended a conference paid for by the city of New Orleans related to his position on the HANO, the Housing Authority Board of New Orleans. He served on that board of commissioners appointed by Mayor LaToya Cantrell. So he was going to a HANO housing conference, and apparently the mayor went to go travel with him to spend time with him.
And fascinating to me personally, we broke that story.
Yes.
That Jeffrey Vappy, when he was appointed to the HANO board by the mayor, in what seemed like a stretch of any official duties with the police department, did in fact take that trip to Napa. We broke that. It's our exclusive story. Now it's contained in one of the counts in the federal indictment.
Yes.
Yeah, give yourself a pat on the back. Journalism, right? Journalism. Okay, I love it. Okay, so you guys get the gist of this, right? What we have here is another corrupt Democrat, another corrupt soul sister, right? You got these black women They get into office and they live up to every stereotype you can think of, right? Every stereotype about black women. These Democratic women are like just an embodiment of all of it, right? Of all of it. Sleeping around, get your cheeks clapped, ghetto behavior. You got lawless cities. I mean, like, hey, is this what you're voting for when you vote for Soul Sisters, right? I'm just saying, we continue to see the same thing every single time. Every single time you get one of these DI hires, these history hires, right? You get the same thing. These people are corrupt as hell. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.